now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
What's going on, RBLR Nation? You are tuning into the Rays portion of RBLR Sports. I am your host, Zach Blaine, and here with me, the one and only, the greatest co-host in the world, Mr. Ben Whitelaw. How are you doing, brother?
Hey, what's up? You're the greatest co-host too.
I appreciate that. I think we make a pretty good 1-2 punch over here. But yeah, so Rays baseball, man. I know we're in kind of the slow, unexciting part of baseball right now, but it was actually a pretty exciting week.
Yeah, a lot happened. The Rays, made a trade. They got a front office hire. They made some more roster moves, and now they're going to make a couple more roster moves in about 2 days when they have to add prospects to the 40-man roster. So it's starting to pick up. It's getting exciting right now. And then we'll hit a bit of a lull for a little bit, and then it'll pick back up again.
Yeah, I'm excited for the lull time, So we got listener questions. I know that we missed a couple weeks back there. We got back on track with it last week, but I think we have quite a few listener questions this week.
Yeah, we do. We've got quite a bit. So the first one I have here is not a question, but it is a compliment from @Stu Sternberg, not the real Stu Sternberg, but somebody with that username on Twitter. They said, I think you look very nice today. So thank you for that. That's a great start.
So nice of you. Ben, you do look great today.
Thank you. My armpit hair is still a little sweaty from yoga, but other than that, the rest of me is pretty dry, so I'm feeling good. But anyways, yeah. Next question here. Well, this is an actual question. It's kind of like a 3-part thing here from @Jake Larson. Jacob asked thoughts on John Daniels. So I guess that's kind of like big news. The Rays did hire a front office guy. He doesn't really have like a super specific role. It seems like he's just going to help in the decision-making process and all that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on John Daniels being added to the Rays front office?
Yeah, so I think it's exciting to see an out of house hire. That was exciting for me. And John Daniels, I mean, when he was hired on to be the GM of what was it? I'm having a brain fart. The Rangers. He was the youngest GM in MLB history.
Yeah, I think he was 28 years old when he first became a GM. Like, that's crazy.
Yes, sir. 28 years old, and I mean, he's continued to kind of move up the ranks, and I think it's exciting for him to have him on, because looking at some of the trades that he's made, I mean, he's had a few downs, but most of the trades that he's made over his career have been solid trades. So I think that's just adds more trade power to Tampa, which we already have a ton of. So it's just exciting to me.
Yeah, it was a really great move in my opinion. I mean, we don't know exactly what he's going to be doing in the front office, but he's someone who kind of had a similar team philosophy that the Rays current front office has. So when he was in Texas, his thing was like, we want to have a consistent, like, strong team. We want to have a contender every year. We're not going to like sell the farm to go for it one year. So he fits really well with the Rays front office in that way. I think from like 2010 to 2016, I believe they made the playoffs like 5 times.
Yeah.
And a couple like, deep runs. So yeah, as many bites at the apple as you can get is the Rays strategy. So John Daniels kind of embodies that too, but now he has that outside perspective, like you said. So I think it's a nice move to add like another layer to the decision-making process in the Rays front office.
Yeah, not to mention when he was with the Rangers, he brought their farm system up dramatically. At one point, they were ranked the number 4 farm system, and I think I read something that it was the biggest jump in ranking since like the ranking system of minor league systems or farm systems had started.
Wow, it's impressive. I mean, because the Rangers aren't typically like the team you think of when you think of, player development and high quality prospects. I mean, they had their pretty decent run like in the early part of the 2010s, but yeah, I think it's just a great hire, and I'm excited to see like the impact he has on the decision making process, from trades to promotions to all that stuff. So it'll be fun.
I agree. It's going to be exciting for sure.
Jake Larson also asked thoughts on how the next 2 days are going to work out. Anybody could get traded. Anybody you see kind of getting left off and exposed to the Rule 5 draft?
Uh, I think that talking with you and seeing the stuff that we've posted, I think that there's not going to really be any surprises. I think the ones that we've said are going to get saved are probably going to get saved. And I mean, with Choi gone, I don't see another big trade happening. Well, not that Choi was a big trade, but I don't see a trade happening unless we can get rid of Harold Ramirez.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we know we're going to protect Curtis Meade and Taj Bradley, likely Xavier Edwards, probably Colby White, and then that's pretty much it. I don't really see the need to add any of the double A or single A prospects because they're not going to be able to stick on a major league roster anyways. So, I mean,
Exactly.
we're going to see, Bly Madris probably gone. Miles Mastrobuoni probably gone, maybe traded or released or something. I don't know. They'll probably try to trade these guys because I feel like getting released is a little insulting almost.
Yeah,
Luke
exactly.
Raley, I think Luke Raley does have a little bit of value. I think he could get traded away for like a low level, like, mid-tier prospect. And then unfortunately, I think Ryan Yarbrough is on the way out. We talked about it last week. He's due a lot of money in arbitration. I think it's projected 4.2 million. That's, I mean, unless he is like showing out in some batting cage in wherever he's at right now, like Washington, wherever he's from, like I don't really see the need to keep him, which is unfortunate, but maybe they can bring him back on like a minor league deal or something. I don't know. I think he has a little bit of trade value because he is left-handed, but we'll see. But yeah, I think those four guys are on their way out, and maybe Harold too.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And like we went over the arbitration show not long ago, and I think that Yarbs was one of the biggest surprises to me with you because I figured, with how I know how big a fan you are of him. But I think that if we could bring him back on a minor league deal, I would be happy to have him back. But I think that he's going to want a chance to play in the majors instead of playing in the minor league.
Right, exactly. So I mean, I hope he gets that. If not, with the Rays. So yeah. Last question here from Jake Larson is: if you listened to the Solon's interview with Eric Neander, I did. I'm not sure if you all did, but he asked if we were surprised by the omittance of Jonathan Aranda and Harold Ramirez as filling in at first base options, and I'm really not surprised. I mean, the Rays have made it pretty clear that they're going to go out and get someone that can play first base and DH. So. Yeah, I mean, I think Aranda will platoon, but I genuinely think Harold is on the way out, and I'd be a little surprised to see him on the opening day roster.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that I wouldn't be surprised to see Aranda platoon, but I think that with him on the team, he's going to be more of a DH. We've talked about some of the fielding stuff last season, and I don't see him being definitely not an everyday first baseman. And, like I said, I think he's just going to be more of a DH. And with Ramirez, I mean, I think I'm right there with you. I think he's on his way out.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of just, he played his way into an important role on the team, which was great. And I think it's time for the Rays to hopefully cash in on that and sell high because I don't see him sustaining a 350 BABIP for the rest of his career. Like that's just not too reasonable.
No, and if he does, I mean, he's way underpaid.
Right. Yeah. If he's going to do that, like he's going to get a big deal somewhere else.
Exactly.
But next question here, friend of the show and Jeopardy runner-up at Darby Robinson. That wasn't supposed to be an insult, but yeah, he was on our Jeopardy show. If you haven't watched that, go check that out. He said Topkin speculates that Brandon Lau at first base is an odd fit. You have Yandy, you have Paredes, and even Aranda, and not to mention plenty of first base free agent options. However, when Topper does speculate things like that, it tends to be because he heard something specific. So he wanted to know our thoughts on Brandon Lau playing first base.
Do you wanna lead us off with this? You want me to go first?
Rock, paper, scissors for it. I'm cool with whatever.
All right, rock, paper, scissors, paper.
Rock.
Okay, all right, I will go first. So I saw something on Twitter as well, and forgive me, I can't remember who tweeted it. But there was speculation that Cincinnati has a ton of infielders that are kind of knocking on the door for 2023 to be at the majors. If someone like Jonathan India were available, I would trade for him, and I think Brandon Lau at first base is a good option. I think it's weird to think about him at first base, but also, I mean, we have a plethora of infielders that could fill that role at second base. So I think that first base is kind of a spot where we need a solid bat and someone who we can count on. And I think that we can count on him to be there. So that's kind of my thought on it. I'm okay with him playing first base.
Yeah, I'd be okay with it too, honestly. Like, if first base is probably the easiest position to learn, fielding wise. So why not give him a bigger glove and see if he can figure it out? If not, it's not a big deal because you can still acquire someone. I think this might be something he's going to be working on in the offseason if it is, a thing the Rays are going to do, and then maybe it'll work out. Maybe it doesn't. Yeah, if he plays first base, that's great because I know with the shift being banned, you might want a bit more of a rangy fielder at second base. So, yeah, it's fine with me. Just get his bat in the lineup every day, whatever helps him stay healthy. And, yeah, I'd be cool with it.
Yeah, now, kind of a follow-up question to that, because we haven't really heard too much about anyone, any of the dominoes falling in free agency yet. So do you think that this maybe means that some of the first basemen are asking more than what Tampa's willing to pay?
Possibly. I mean, the only free agent ones I think that are worthy of signing would be Jose Abreu or Brandon Belt. The other ones are all trade candidates that the Rays could relatively easily afford. So yeah, I mean, if they miss out on a high end candidate like one of those guys, I could see them just cutting their losses, getting Brandon Lau, and then looking to add a power bat. Maybe somewhere like a DH or something.
Yeah, no, I had a little bit of a Twitter argument. I won't call it an argument. I'll call it a Twitter debate about Anthony Rizzo, because they were saying, oh, well, Anthony Rizzo would fix all the problems at first base. I don't think he would. I think the only thing he adds is home run ability. His fielding, he's not prime Anthony Rizzo anymore, but I see people bringing up that name, and I'm like, I don't think that he's worth what he's going to be getting.
Yeah, I don't really think he's worth it either. And the Rays kind of need. I mean, he's a pretty good on base guy, but they had plenty of on base guys last season. They just didn't really have one that could consistently put the ball over the fence. So I'm not. Rizzo isn't my first choice, but if they miss out on 4, 5, 6 other guys, maybe consider Rizzo. But yeah, he's not my first choice by any means.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if he's quite down 4, 5, or 6 for me. I'd put him probably around 3, but he's not a first choice for me either.
All right. Next up here is from Twitter user @Nolfo. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Sorry. He said, I feel like the Rays can go in and get back Longo and get Abreu because they bring a veteran presence to the clubhouse for the young core. Do you think we should bring in Abreu, or do we give Aranda a chance at first base next season? That's a pretty loaded question. I know we touched on Brandon Lau playing first base, but yeah, what do you think about giving Aranda a chance at first?
I don't trust him yet, and I know that it's going to take time to trust him. So maybe realistically give him a platoon role this season and see how he does. But I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket with Aranda playing first base.
Yeah, me neither. I think, a platoon role is going to be good for him this year. We saw his bat really fall off hard near the end of last season. And we know the glove isn't really serviceable at too many positions. So he's going to improve. That's almost a given. Yeah, I'm not 100% sold on Aranda being the everyday first baseman yet. I also don't really. I mean, Abreu isn't my first choice either, but I'd rather have Abreu at first than Aranda.
Yeah,
I would mostly prefer a lefty though if they're going to go out and get a big bat. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'm relatively high on Abreu, but I do think that we need a lefty, especially in our lineup, not just at first base, but in our lineup period. We need at least one lefty. So I think that Abreu is up there on my list, but as far as Aranda goes, yeah, I'd rather have Abreu over him as well.
Yeah, me too. Another question here from Nolfo. What do you think John Daniels, the new Rays executive, brings to the table for the team that's a lot of fours for the foreseeable future? I know we kind of touched on him earlier, but I was thinking there's this book I'm reading called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, and there's a part in the book. It's a really interesting book about like stress on the body. It's pretty cool, but there's a part of the book where these two scientists were like researching how like hormone secretion works, and at first they were working together, and then they had like some kind of falling out. So they were like in a race with each other to see who could like publish the paper faster. And it turns out they were able to do it in such a quick, a short period of time because they had such like a good, healthy competition, but they were working towards the same goal. So I think, and this is a roundabout way of saying that I think John Daniels kind of brings something similar to the Rays, where he wants to get as many bites at the apple as possible, but he had a totally different way of doing it over in Texas. So I think having him as part of the front office team is a nice, different perspective, and it can help the Rays achieve that long-term goal of, being a consistent contender in as many years as possible.
Yeah, I think you touched on it perfectly. I think he brings just a different perspective to the same, like, we're all trying to answer the same question or get to the same objective, and I feel like he just brings a different point of view to that. So I don't know. I think the question was, what do we expect? I don't know what to expect from it yet, so it's kind of a to be determined situation, but I think that it's going to work out well because it is just a different perspective on the same goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great hire. I think, the Rays wouldn't go out of house to make a big hire like that if it wasn't going to be significant. So excited about that. And I think this is our final question here.
Well, real quick.
Oh,
we didn't touch on the Longo question from the last.
Yeah,
well.
Longo. That's right.
So what is your take on Longo as a, coming back and being an actual like difference maker for us?
Kind of like I mean, I guess in a way it's like similar to Rizzo, not in the sense that like, I mean, I guess the bat might be about the same, but
yeah,
he's not my first choice. Like nostalgically, he is my first choice, but like realistically, he's not getting any younger. He's not left-handed. He's not like the power bat he used to be. And the Rays, have said they want power at the corners because that was really what hurt the team. Like they struggled the most against right-handed pitching this season. And Neander made that very clear that they want to get a lefty or someone who hits righties about as well as a lefty. And that's not really Longo. You got Yandy over there at third. Unless he's gone, I don't really see Longo coming in at all.
So I agree with you, and I think it's nostalgia is a good word, but the storyline itself would be amazing for him to come in and retire Ray and play one final season. It's almost like D Wade coming back for the Heat and playing that last season with the Heat. For those of you that listen or watch basketball at all, but it just feels like the storyline would be really good, but he doesn't fit a role that we need that we don't currently already have on the roster.
Right. And the Rays' goal each season isn't to have the best storyline. Like it's to make the playoffs and win as many games as possible. Because once they're in, like anything can happen. So
exactly.
I don't necessarily think Longo specifically helps the team accomplish that goal. Like he's not a bad player, but it's not most aligned with their goals if they go out and sign Longo. So
exactly. If we can get him for cheap and he wants to come home for one last season, then I'm all for it. But I think that if he's going to be even remotely pricey, that we just need to walk away from it.
Right. Okay, now this is our last question, I believe, from at Randy Land Season, like SZN Season. What do you think a Randy extension looks like? And I'm assuming a contract extension, not like Randy getting taller or longer or something.
What does it look like? I don't think we'll know. I know I've talked about wanting him to have an extension, but I don't realistically, I don't see it happening because you opened my eyes that he's still under team control until 2027. So I just don't see him getting an extension for a while.
Yeah, like I mean, unless he gets super expensive in arbitration, like his extension is what he has right now. Like we still have him for what, 4 or 5 more years. So that's the extension right there. Like, and if he starts to fall off, then whatever, it's not a big loss. But if you sign him to an extension and he starts to fall off early because his best tool, I mean, like he's a great, like exciting player, he hits the ball hard, but he's able to overperform because of his legs and his speed, and that's like the first thing that goes when guys start to get older. So unless he can adapt his approach as he ages, which is a pretty big if, like that's I don't really think they need an extension. And plus, like corner outfielders are a dime a dozen. I mean, it's easier said than done, but like they have a lot of athletic guys in the minors that can hold down a corner outfield spot okay, and then a couple that can hit really well and can be just okay in the corner. So unless if he was like a shortstop or a center fielder, that's different because that's like a pretty like prime position. But he's a left fielder, sometimes right fielder.
Yeah, and I think that you're spot on. Like if we give him an extension, then we're in a sense locked into him, which I would love to be locked into Randy. Like I think that he's a great player, but he is a late bloomer, which means that he's older than most people that have a breakout season. So it just feels like
Right.
if we were to extend him right now, then we're essentially locked into that deal. Whereas in arbitration, we can, theoretically could not offer him and just trade him. And then he's got team control for another team, and it almost makes him more valuable in a sense.
Right. I mean, if he was 23, 24, 25, like, yeah, maybe an extension would be on the table, but what is he, like 27, 28? Like,
Yeah, I believe he's
that's
28.
and this is his first season of arbitration. Like, that's crazy. But I mean, if they do extend him, I think it would be like a lot of money. I think he would probably become one of the highest, if not the highest paid player on the team. So
Yeah,
there's that, but
I think
I don't really see that happening.
I think it would put him right below Franco.
Yeah. I guess that's all of our questions, though. So yeah, thank you all for submitting those. That's a great way to start off our episodes. It's a nice way to get into it. So cool.
Yes, sir. No, I agree. So now we get to talk, a little more baseball stuff. More of a, I think we're going to get into the Yandy Díaz review now, right? Kind of his season review and what we expect from him next season.
Right. Yeah. Before we do that, I just want to talk about the Ji-Man Choi trade a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah.
I thought we had a question on that, so I thought we were going to get into it from that, but we did not. So yeah, first, just what are your initial thoughts on Ji-Man Choi getting traded to Pittsburgh for, I think Jack Hartman was his name? Yeah,
Sam
Jack
Hartman. Oh, Jack. Oh, this has Sam Hartman written.
Right. I believe it's Jack.
It is Jack. That's why I was surprised on ESPN when it said Sam Hartman, but I believe you're right. It's Jack Hartman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a, I don't know how to explain it because I expected Choi to be traded, but in a sense, I expected him to be a part of a bigger trade. So when we got a 24-year-old who's playing at, A-ball, who just had Tommy John surgery last season, it was kind of a shock to me. I was just expecting a little more from him.
Yeah, I mean, the Rays were likely going to non-tender Choi anyways. And for those of you that didn't listen to our episode about the rule about arbitration stuff or might have forgot, when you non-tender a player, it means you're not paying them, you're not going to pay them or renew their contract for another year, and they're gone for free. He's immediately a free agent. So it was either lose Choi for nothing or trade him for something, and the Rays chose the latter. And Jack Hartman does have a bit of an interesting track record. He didn't start pitching full time until he got to wherever Appalachian State, I believe.
App State, yes, sir.
Yeah. So he was doing a two-way thing at a community college in Florida. and then he became a relief pitcher full time. He throws really, really hard. He throws like 97. He can touch 98. And that's even after his Tommy John surgery. So that's super encouraging. Command is a little spotty, but again, he's relatively new at pitching. So I believe he started pitching in 2019. 2020 lost season because of COVID. And then 2021 Tommy John surgery. So now he pitched a little bit in 2022, but not that much.
Yeah, I think he had like 16 innings.
Yeah, so I mean, like he's still super new to pitching, and I really like when the Rays get like a blank slate pitcher, like when they got Javi Guerra, who just has like these incredible tools, but they don't know what to do with them yet. So yeah, I'm excited what the Rays end up doing with him. His fastball is hard, but the shape is terrible. Like it's not a good fastball. Curveball is really good, doesn't really throw it. Slider, he likes to throw it, but that's not very good. So I think they'll kind of tinker with the pitch mix and the shapes and see what they can get out of him. But it looks like he projects to be like a relief pitcher, like a sinker curve kind of guy, which would be interesting. So, we'll see where he ends up.
Do you have like a guess on how long until we potentially see him at the next level?
Like the major league level or just?
Yeah, well, yeah, major league level. I know there's technically 2 more levels before that, but till we see him at the major league level.
Yeah, I mean, so he was high A last season. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Rays like drop him down to low A because I don't think he was ready for high A. It just kind of seems like Pittsburgh was like, yeah, you're 24, you should be pitching in a higher level. But really,
Exactly.
like he's brand new to pitching. Like you're not just going to throw him in the deep end. So maybe they drop him down to low A or even like start him out in the complex league for like a month. And then, maybe he can finish the season 2023 in high A or maybe double A and then have a chance to reach the majors maybe in 2024. Who knows? It all depends on health and how he turns out. But I think within like 2, maybe 3 years would be a reasonable time frame.
Okay. I like that. So we're thinking, 26, 27 years old, we'll see him potentially at the major league level.
Yep, just like Randy. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll be talking about a contract extension for him in a couple of years.
I'm all for it.
Was that like the only? Well, I guess they released Nick Anderson. That's another thing that happened.
Nick Anderson got released, and he just got picked up by the Braves. And then McKay got released, but he got outrighted to AAA.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that they were able to keep him. That was a little shocking.
I expected him to be somewhere else, but also, I mean, he's not going to pitch next season.
No, absolutely not. But you got a team, willing to take a chance on Nick Anderson, but not Brendan McKay. Like, all right, whatever. Well, I'll take it. I'm happy.
Yeah, right. I'm not upset about
confused.
it. And then I want to say there was 2 more people that were released, but I can't remember exactly who they are right now.
I believe Quinn was released. Yep. And then
Yacobonis.
Yeah, that's who it was. Yeah. So didn't really lose anything. It's just a couple like replacement level guys.
Exactly. I think the biggest takeaway for me was honestly getting to kind of store McKay away again and see how that pans out.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, he'll be working his way back. Hopefully we see him, not in 2023, but maybe in 2024 if he can get healthy and get right. But something that would help him get healthy and get right is if he bought some Rays inspired merch from shop.rblrsports.com. Maybe he's into the Bucks. Maybe we can get like a German Bucks shirt or something after they're the kings of Germany now, football wise. Yeah, I don't know. Just everybody who's listening, go buy stuff. That's my plug there. Go buy it.
No, it's a good plug, and I'm going to plug a little discount code for you guys. If you use the code FLAPPY, FLAPPY, on your order, no matter how much you buy, that will give you 10% off. So if you spend $100, you get $10 off. So highly recommend going and checking it out, and we appreciate you guys who do go check it out. And if you guys do get a shirt, please post it on Instagram, post it on Twitter, tag us at RBLR Sports, and maybe you'll get a shout out or something on the show.
Yeah, exactly. And the more money you spend and use that discount code, the more money you save. So like if you spend like $1 million, you would get $100,000 off. Like, do you know what you could do with
That's a,
$100,000?
you could buy
That's crazy.
another $100,000 worth of shirts.
That's true. It's the infinite shirt glitch. So the thing you need though is $1 million to start off with. So, and that's at shop.rblrsports.com.
So yeah, Yandy Díaz, man. Just to start off, I legitimately think that he was the most consistent player in our lineup last year. That's not a pitcher. I think that taking that out of the equation, I think that on this team, Yandy Díaz was one of the most consistent players for us last year.
Oh yeah, easily. And he probably was the team MVP. Like he really didn't falter like at all this season. So really great year from Yandy. He put up a 3.8 F WAR career high 146 WRC plus. It was 46% better than the average hitter. And I think most impressive is his career low 10.8 strikeout rate to go along with a 14% walk rate.
Yeah, I mean, all around, it was just a very solid season for him. At the plate, I mean, he only hit 9 home runs, but he had if I'm not mistaken, it was the most plate attempt or at bat attempts that he's had in his career, and he still had the third highest batting average he's ever had.
Yeah, he was definitely a workhorse.
Yeah, I believe it was a 296 batting average, if I'm not mistaken. So just out of 100 or 558 plate attempts, he literally had 60 strikeouts. Like he was so much better than what we've seen of him in the past.
Yeah, and he did it with a little bit of power this season too. Like his barrel rates weren't great or whatever, but he did have a career high in launch angle at 7.7 degrees, career high in average exit velo 92.2 miles an hour, but he still maintained like his elite plate discipline. He had a 93.2 zone contact rate, and I believe that was the second or third highest. I'm going to double check real quick. I forgot to include that in my notes, but basically like he hits the ball really hard and he hits every ball basically. Like he's insanely talented with his hand-eye coordination and bat to ball skills, all that good stuff that you want from a hitter. Not a ton of power, but when you're getting on base consistently and hitting the ball to get on base, like it's really impressive. So he actually had the 11th highest zone contact rate, but a lot of the guys ahead of him on this list did not hit for power too much. Mookie Betts definitely does, but like Miles Straw, I think he had like 1 home run. Isaiah Kiner Falefa, maybe 1 home run, I think. Stephen Kwan. So like he was, productive while still making a ton of contact.
Yeah, and not to mention that he had his second best out of his whole career on base percentage, which is, the Rays needed that this year.
Yeah, he's a consistent presence at the top of the lineup. He hits lefties, hits righties, doesn't matter. He's going to get on base. I think he's probably a pretty solid like number 2 hitter. I mean, I don't love him leading off because the base running is not his strong suit, but he definitely needs to be at the top of the lineup pretty much every day.
Yeah, agreed. 1 through 3. I agree with you. I don't necessarily like him at the 1 spot, so I would put him at 2 or 3, but I think he fits in there. Out of those 2 spots, he fits in there perfect. And, I mean, this is just us talking about his offensive stats. I mean, this was the first year he played primarily third base, and, I mean, he had a 0.978 fielding percentage, so it's 98% fielding percentage, essentially, which was so good, especially considering it's his first full season as like a third baseman.
Yeah, he was really solid. He makes some great throws. He doesn't make every play, but he makes the plays he's supposed to make, and that's there's a lot of value in that. When you've got a guy like Brandon Lau playing second, and he's a great bat, but like he doesn't make the plays he's supposed to make all the time, and a couple other guys had some weird years defensively too. So it was nice to have his bat consistency in the lineup, and then his consistent glove as well.
Yeah, out of 839 innings played at third base, he only had 5 errors, which, I mean,
yeah, that's amazing.
That's very solid for your first year, like playing primarily third base, because last year he played primarily first base for us at 81 games. That jumped up to 102 this season. And I feel like he is such a solid player for us. So I'm excited at the prospect of him being our third baseman again next season.
Yeah, me too, definitely. And something that's really interesting here is some of the projections for next season are already out, and Steamer actually projects him to have a higher WAR, more home runs, and a little bit lower WRC plus. But like he's projected to maintain this pace that he set last season, which is that's impressive because the projection systems are usually like a little bit conservative with their estimates, but not with Yandy. So we'll take it.
Yeah, no, as far as because I use baseball reference for a lot of my stuff, and they're putting him about the same next year as well.
So looking forward at next year, what do you think is something Yandy could do or improve on to maybe take that next step and not just be like, a really good, consistent hitter, but, and like a fringe all-star, but maybe become an all-star next year?
Yeah, I think if he gets his home run numbers up a little bit, I know that's such a cliche answer. If he hits more home runs, I think that he's I think if he all around, he's a very solid player. I think playing for the Rays, we don't get as much screen time, I'll say, as some of the bigger name teams. But I do think that, if he goes out and puts up 15 to 20 home runs, which is not like insane, I think that if he could put up 15 to 20 home runs, I think that he can very well be in that all-star talk.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he was close to it this year. He started to catch fire a little bit later. So we'll see. I do hope he gets those home run numbers up, but I don't think he necessarily has to. I like that he has the potential to hit home runs at certain times. I remember a couple of his home runs came in important moments, so he can rise to that occasion as needed. But really, at the top of the lineup, you want him on base, and if there's a guy, runners in scoring position, you want him not trying to do too much, just get the guy in. I think he can continue to do that. So, great season for Yandy though. Like really, it's hard to find any negatives with him.
Yeah, I can't. I have no bad things to say about Yandy this year. I was very impressed and very happy that he performed the way that he did, and I think that he kind of cemented himself into being an everyday player. Well, as much of an everyday player as the Rays can have, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean they platoon a ton, but he was definitely like a mainstay in the lineup. But because he did have such a great season, do you think the Rays could sell high and trade him now in this offseason?
Oh, God. Do I think the Rays could? Yeah, nothing would surprise me with the Rays. The only thing that would surprise me is if Franco was gone. Like that.
Yeah.
At this point, that's the only thing that would surprise me with the Rays, because you never know what's going on in that front office. As much as like you and I pay attention to the Rays, we do a show every week. We think we're pretty educated on the Rays system. Then they do something that blows us away and shocks us. So would I be surprised if they traded him? No. Do I think they will? If I had to put an answer on paper, I would say no, they don't trade him. But I do think that he would probably one of the more valuable people on our team right now, trade-wise.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he has it's kind of like a Kevin Kiermaier situation where like they could trade him, but he has more value to the team than the value he would bring in, if that makes sense. Like you can't, it's really hard to quantify like how, I mean, like we can with like numbers and stuff, but like just his consistency and his presence in the lineup is really important. And, it would be valued by another team, but I think the Rays value that more right now. So I think he's got at least like another year, maybe two left in him with the Rays. And something that I really liked about him and that I think will force the Rays to keep him around a bit is how he hits with two strikes. So here's a list of all the players who hit better than him with two strikes this year: Aaron Judge and Yordan Alvarez. So that's
chumps ahead of him.
Yeah, Yandy Díaz was, based on expected weighted on base average, he was the third best hitter in the majors with two strikes. And he had a really large sample size. So he's really good. And there were times where it could have been better and the umpires robbed him on a called strike three call or whatever. So, and also important, more so importantly here is that the Rays didn't have anybody else in the top 70 in baseball in terms of expected weighted on base with 2 strikes. So the next closest was Ji-Man Choi at 71. So like the Rays don't have a ton of 2 strike, like guys that are comfortable hitting with 2 strikes. And Yandy was really good at it. And you kind of need, you obviously need a lot of things in a lineup, but diversity like that, where you have guys that can attack early, guys that can attack late. Yandy has a lot of value in the way that he's not going to get rattled when he gets to 2 strikes. He's still going to keep the same approach, hit the ball hard, and get on base. So, yeah, I really think they need to keep him for at least one more year here.
Yeah, I think that at minimum we keep him for one more year. If he has another season like he had this year, I think that it's just going to make him more valuable to us than any other person, than any other team. So I think that if he can perform as good as he did this year, if not better, I think that he stays around for a little while. He might be the next extension guy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not sure about an extension. He's, 31 now?
31, yeah.
Under team control through 2024. Okay, so he's got like 2 more years, I guess, with the Rays, if I'm counting right.
Yeah, it should be 2 more seasons.
Yeah, I don't know what year we're in, but basically he's got like plenty of time. Yeah, maybe they trade him next year when his arbitration number inevitably jumps up to like 7 or 8 million or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think that 7 or 8 million? I know for the Rays that's a high hit on their payroll, but realistically, in the major leagues, do you think 7 to 8 million is too much for a player with Yandy's stats?
Maybe. I think it depends what happens with like Kyle Manzardo and Curtis Mead, because those are some corner infielders that can really play.
Yeah.
Junior Caminero, he's doesn't stop hitting. Like it's like contagious for him. He's infected with hitting the ball really hard everywhere. He's someone that's going to be up, I think, sooner rather than later, even though he's still pretty young. So they have a lot of options coming up, but most prospects end up doing bad and they turn into nothing. So, we really just have to hurry up and wait and see what's going to come in the future. But yeah, maybe they would keep Yandy around if the younger guys aren't, fulfilling their potential.
I think no matter what, it's nice to see someone who in Cleveland wasn't really getting the opportunity, and then he comes over here and he's within 3 or 4 years, he's one of the better players on our team.
Yeah, it was the Jake Bauers trade where they gave up Jake Bauers, who has, been passed around minor league teams now. He's not really turning in anything. And we get Yandy. So the Rays definitely came out. It looks like they came out on top of that trade. I know Jake Bauers isn't retired yet, so he still got a chance to make a resurgence. But right now it looks like Yandy's the prize of that trade.
Oh, I agree. I mean, are we surprised that Tampa comes out and wins another trade, though?
Yeah, I know. It's nice to be on the winning side of those things.
So, I mean, aside from that, you got any other news or anything else to tell the wonderful RBLR fans?
I haven't seen it confirmed yet, but I believe Brady Williams is going to be the third base coach for the Rays. I haven't looked in like an hour and a half, but I'm like 99.99% sure that he is about to be named the third base coach. So we'll see. I'm just kind of waiting on the Mark Topkin tweet for that. So
I'm looking it up now.
Okay, cool. Then I'll keep stalling. Brady Williams, I think, would do a great job at third base as the coach, because we know Rodney Linares really loved to wave his arms over there, and which is great. And I know he's kind of just executing, team philosophy, base running philosophy, but maybe getting like a new face over there. And I want them to keep Rodney, like, don't get me wrong, but maybe just a role change would be nice.
Yeah, so it was a great job stalling, but I'm not seeing anything yet. So it may not be announced yet. We may be a little bit early, but you heard it here first if it gets announced.
Yeah, I've heard some rumblings, so we'll see about that. Australian Baseball League still going on. Like we said, Junior Caminero is dominating over there. Willie Vasquez is also dominating. A couple of bullpen arms are also looking pretty good, and Junior William, Geraldo Catalina. Arizona Fall League just finished up. The Rays team that they had players on missed out on the playoffs, but that's not their fault, because Jason Dominguez, the highly touted Yankees prospect, had the lowest OPS in the league. So he's part of the reason they failed. So it's not the Rays players' fault.
I like that. We'll blame it on the Yankees. Anything we can do to dig at the Yankees, I'm going to blame it on them more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Oh, well, last thing I'll say then, guys. We already did our, shameless shirt plug, which that would be amazing if you could. But the last thing I'll ask you guys, doesn't cost any money. Wherever you're listening to this, whether it's Apple Music, Spotify, wherever, if you could just go in and follow us and like us, like the podcast on there, it'd be amazing. And then any social media you have, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we are at RBLR Sports. If you could just go give us a follow, that's where we get all of our questions for the fan questions. Just give us a follow on there. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you guys for listening this long. I know that this is the slower part of the baseball season, like we mentioned before, but we appreciate you for being with us. You guys are the reason we do it. And I'm going to give it over to Ben for the last word. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for listening, and go Rays.
Go Rays.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.